In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Akkerman, their 00 Royal Akkerman Blue. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the blue ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more blues, you could check those out there. I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on Clairfontaine 90 GSM. No bleeding, no ghosting. Though 1.1 has no feather spread halo sheen, it does offer some shading. You see the K's in Akkerman are much darker and it gets much lighter through the man part. The extra fine is a little lighter than the stub with no feather spread halo sheen. It does shade rather nicely as brown goes darker to lighter, fox goes lighter to darker, quick goes dark to light to dark, 13 seconds to dry. The medium is just a tad lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice shading, quick going dark to light to dark, brown going dark to light, 21 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both don't show a ton of color variation, more in the medium, but it shows up very nicely in the writing. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Sailor, my first pen with a medium fine nib, is inked up, used for day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread halo sheen. It does show some shading where it goes lighter to darker to lighter. The extra fine is lighter than the stub. It has no feather spread halo sheen, no shade, 20 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread halo sheen. Some of the shading is showing, like brown starts dark and gets light. Fox starts light and gets dark. 51 seconds to dry though. The scrubby for both are showing no color variation, though the medium shows some, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see it immediately starts forming a line right at the bottom, and the rest of it pushes up. But we also see that this is a true blue. There's no mixing to get their tone here. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water. And we see that the line on the bottom is much more formed and there, and not nearly as much of that blue ink is pushing up, suggesting that it may be a little bit resistant. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. Though 1.1 has no feather spread halo sheen, it does shade. It goes lighter to darker to lighter in the Akkerman. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread halo sheen. It shows some shading, like quick goes darker to lighter to darker, brown goes dark to light, lazy goes dark to light, 11 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread halo sheen. Yes, it shades. Brown goes dark to light, dog goes lighter to darker, 23 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show color variation. We definitely get it in the writing, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it definitely washes out a little bit. It gets a bit lighter. It doesn't spread. All the information's readable, so you can feel safe using it in a note-taking situation. Water's reactivating and lifting some of the darkest tones, but still leaving quite a bit of blue behind. Pen flush does just a little bit more than water does, showing a little bit more of the white of the paper coming through, and the 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the paper pretty quickly. Now, it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on monokaki paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread halo sheen, and yes, it shades. Light to light, right up in that Akkerman. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread halo sheen and shading. The quick goes dark to dark, brown goes dark to light. Fox is a nice dark tone all the way through. 10 seconds to dry. Medium is dark like the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, but no shading. 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation left to right, which we got. The medium shows none, and we didn't get any. The smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's Royal Akkerman Blue has a viscosity of 3.52, making this a very, very dry ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity and all that's done, there's a link to that video down in the description. Now, let's take a look at moleskin paper. Now we have a lot of bleed that's going on in the medium. None of this touched the page underneath, but you couldn't use the back of the page. When it comes to the extra fine, I'm just circling the spots that are much deeper, and it looks like a lot more as I've circled them. It looks a lot worse. I don't worry about where the scrubby is. I think you could use the back of the page very easily here. None of this touches the next page, and I don't think that would be so distracting as to stop you. Now the medium at the top has a ridiculous amount of ginormous feathers. It's god-awful. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, just a ridiculous amount of feathering, and they're huge. The extra fine is lighter than the medium. It does have tiny feathering all over it. It's nowhere near as distracting as it is in the medium. It's just really tiny. I don't see this stopping someone from using it. It has no spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Scrubby says there should be able to be a little bit of color variation, but there isn't. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's Royal Akkerman Blue has an average dry time of 23 seconds, meaning be patient because it's going to take a little longer than normal to dry. The last writing sample is done on 28-pound copy paper. Now on the medium we have a bunch where it's going quite deep into the page. I don't know that you could use the back of the page there. When it comes to the extra fine, we only have a couple of spots. The extra fine would not stop most people from using the back of the page, and I think you safely could. None of it touches the page underneath. The medium has tiny feathers all over it, not horrible. I think, depending on what you're doing, you could live with it and move on. I don't know that I could, but I know plenty of people that could. It has no spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the medium. It has no feathering, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Scrubby shows a tiny bit of color variation, though we get none. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so you don't have to worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's Royal Akkerman Blue, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. For a classic blue, I went with a classic red, Levenger's Cardinal Red. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman's 00 Royal Akkerman Blue? To start on blue, royal blue isn't normally my thing. That won't make this a bad ink. It shades very nicely and is very well behaved. A little lighter a tone than I have been used to seeing as a royal blue. The light tone is easy to read on the page, so there's no problem with that. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I think we can darken it up a little bit and still maintain some of the shading using a wet fine nib. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video we're going to take a look at Noodler's Raven Black.